Greetings, students. Today we're going to discuss practice test 2-4. Let's begin. Find the distance between the points. So we're using d equals the square root, the change in x, so -6 minus 4 squared, plus the change in y, so 5 minus 8 squared. So I'll have here for my distance equal to the square root of -10 squared plus -3 squared. -10 squared is 100. -3 squared is 9. This is the square root of 109. When a negative squares as a quantity, it becomes positive. Question 2. Mark the angles and sides. Triangles can indicate their congruence. So E is equal to Z. They will have the same amount of marking. G is equal to Y. They will have 2 marks because they're the second congruent angle. And F is congruent to X. They will have 3 markings. Now it also says to mark the sides. So I'll put 1 mark on this side, 2 marks on this side, and 3 marks on this side. Question 3. Supplementary. 24x plus 12 will be equal to 180. Therefore, 24x will be equal to 168. So x here will equal, that is 7. 24 divided into 168. Question 4. Equivalent angles. 11x plus 9 is equal to 130. 9 from 130 is 121. Not 121. 119. 121. Sorry, I thought 19 into 130. It's 121. Then dividing 121 by 11, we get 11 for my answer. Moving back to question 2. The markings are important. You have to have a single marking on one of them, a double marking on the next one, then a triple marking on the third one. Same with the sides. 1 marking, 2 marking, 3 markings. The sides, they go together. Question 5. Exterior angle theorem. So when we're doing the exterior angle theorem, we're either going to add or subtract the 2 interior angles, or the 2 angles that are given. So if we're looking for the exterior angles, we're going to add. If we're looking for the interior angle, we're going to subtract. So here, I'm looking for the interior angle. I'm going to subtract 80 and 60 because that's looking for the interior angle. Yeah, find the measure of the angle on this one. This is all interior, so I'm going to add up 85 and 45. That's 130. Subtract that from 180 because every triangle makes 180. The missing angle is 50, but it says to solve for x. So to get x, we're going to set 10x equal to 50. So therefore x is 5. Because we have to actually put the 50 next to the 10x. So we have to get that 10x to be equal to 50, in other words. All right, classifying triangles by sides and angles. Again, the side names: scalene, equilateral, and isosceles. So if they're all different, we call that scalene. If they're all different, we call that scalene. The angle names: right, obtuse, and acute. So this one has a right angle. We're going to call this right scalene. This one has an obtuse angle. We're going to call this one obtuse scalene. All right, write the point slope form of the equation of the line described. So point slope again is the format where we do y minus y1 is equal to the slope times the quantity x minus x1. So the y value here is -1. So this will be y plus 1. My slope is 5/2. I want a perpendicular slope, so I'm going to flip and negate that. It's going to become -2/5. X plus 1. Perpendicular. Two sides of the triangle are given. Find the possible measure of the third side. So this is the Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to take 6 squared. I'm going to add 9 squared to it. Oh, sorry, we don't have to square them. We don't have to square them here. We're not doing the Pythagorean theorem. We're doing 6 plus 9. So 15 would be not the maximum length, but the side has to be less than 15. And then I'm going to subtract the two given sides. I'm not going to subtract 6 and 9 by doing 6 minus 9. I'm going to do 9 minus 6 because I want the positive measure because no triangle has negative sides. So 3 to 15. My range for my third side is 3 to 15. I take the sum of the two given sides and the difference of the two given sides. So 3 is less than the side, less than the side length, and the side length is less than 15. So I would write that as, put a line here. 3 is less than the remaining side, which is less than 15. Between 3 and 15, in other words, is what the third side has to be. Somewhere in between 3 and 15. And that's from the hinge theorem. The two given sides of a triangle, they have to add up to make more than the third side. So if I take these two given sides, 6 and 9, they have to add up to make more than the third side. So the third side can't be 15 or greater. It has to be less than 15. And the same thing applies here with the 6 and the 3. The 6 and 3 makes 9. So if the side has to be bigger than 3 because that third side would be a 9 that way. The longest side would be a 9. And the two given sides have to make more than the remaining side. All right, moving along to the next question. Question 11. Say the triangles are congruent. If they are, state how you know. So these share a side. There's a shared side here. I'm going to mark it with a side marking. So this is angle, side, angle because I got the angles connected by the side. And angle, side, angle is a congruence postulate. Here we also share a side. So I'll mark the side here in the middle. That is side, angle, side, which is also a congruence postulate. All right, find the value of x. This is an isosceles triangle. So I will take 180. I'll subtract 28 degrees. I'll get 152 degrees. Now, because it's isosceles, both of these angles have to be the same. These two what are called base angles. So I'm going to take 152 and divide it in half. Which is going to be 76 degrees. The value of x. All right, here, because the angles are the same, and we have the sides also the same, we have side angle side congruence, I can legitimately set 2x minus 13 equal to 9, and solve for x by adding 13 to 9, yielding 22, and then dividing by 2 to get 11. X is 11, because both these sides have to be 9 in length. Yeah. All right, next one. Each of these pictures shows a median, medians. So find QX, if XX is 33. So again, when you're working on these types of questions, what you're looking at here is that the mid-segment is what it's called, or not the mid-segment, the medians are cut into thirds. So to get that remaining length there, you would divide 33 by 3 because SX is the entire length. So what I like to do here is I like to say, is this the entire length or is it one of the smaller portions? So this is the whole length of SX. And again, it's dividing into thirds. 1/3 of it goes here, the other 2/3 goes there. So if I take 33 and I divide it by 3, I get 11. QX will equal 11. And if I were to ask you for SQ, which I didn't here, but SQ would equal 22. Because SQ is twice the length of QX, or in other words, the entire thing is divided into thirds. The same thing applies on the next one, but I'm giving you YJ, which is only a small portion here, which is only this portion. So that portion there is half of the is half as much as the BY portion because it's a third of the total length. So on this one, I'm going to do the work a little bit. I'm going to do the work differently because I'm looking at half the length of the segment. So BY is equal to 10, if that makes sense. So 10 plus 5, 15 is the whole length from B to J, or J to B. And the same thing could have applied here. If I would have given you the 11, you would have doubled it to get the 22 for QX and for SQ. All right, underneath here, I have the mid-segment. Mid-segment means cuts in half. So if this is 6, SU should be double. For US, I put it as US, should be double to 6, 12. And the same thing applies on the next one, except you have to do an equation setup now. So like on this next one, I've got to double this value to get this value. So I can take and I can times this one by 2, which will make that into a negative 20 plus a 4x. And that will be equivalent in value to 3x minus 9. Taking 3 from 4x yields x, or 1x. And adding 20 to 9 yields 11. All right, next item we have here, we have angle bisectors. So angle bisectors makes congruent lengths. Each of these are the same length. Px is equal to Py is equal to Pw on this particular diagram. So because Px is 6, Py must also be 6. Same lengths. We have the same thing going on in the next one, but it's asked in a different way. So here, Px equals Py equals Pw as well. But I'm not asking for Px or for Py or Pw. I'm asking for dP. dP. So I'm going to actually use a Pythagorean theorem here. So I have Px is 3. Px is 3, and I have dx is 4. So this is 3 and 4. 3 and 4. So I'll do 3 squared plus 4 squared, the Pythagorean theorem, and that will equal the length from d to p squared. 3 squared and 4 squared is 9 and 16, which I had to make 25. Therefore, dP is 5. All right, so I intend to make each of these worth 5 points each, evenly pointed as per usual. In previous years, what students have struggled with here the most usually has been this last question, number 20. It's a Pythagorean theorem question because you're looking at the 2 legs of a right triangle, and I'm asking for the hypotenuse. And the medians question here. Medians question is kind of difficult for students to grasp. Again, it's cut into thirds, the picture. So QX is 1/3 of that, is 1/3 of the length, and QS is 2/3. And it's also cut in halves because QX is half of QS. So it's got both fractions going on. 11 is half of 22, and 11 is 1/3 of the entire length, 33, and the same thing applies here. 10 is twice the value of 5, or in other words, 5 is half of 10, and 5 is 1/3 of the entire length, 15. Those are the two that tends to get students on the test every year with this, or in previous years with this. Anyways, if you want to come in on Thursday, I'll be here after school. Good luck.